This is the Dr. A Show, the program that shows you how to break the cycle of obesity once and for all. And now, your host, Dr. Will Aguila.
This show is all about helping you live a better life. Each week, I bring you best-selling authors and experts in the fields of nutrition, fitness, self-help, and wellness so that you can make the changes in your life that will help you get healthier and keep the weight off for good. As an expert in weight loss and a recovered binge eater myself, I can tell you that weight loss is not just about the diet. It's about the reasons that you are overeating in the first place. Richard Simmons has been inspiring people to lose weight for 30 years with his infectious energy and wit. Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for being on my show.
It is an honor to be on your show. How are you doing today?
Terrific. Richard, I want to go back to the beginning. When you had your weight problem early on, you said in your book that your father had some lack of affection at home.
You know, my mother was the affectionate one. My father was a little more restrained with his affection, and I'm sure I looked for acceptance in food. You know, I was a kid, and I sang and danced and sold candy on the street corner to help my parents with money. So my lifestyle was surrounded by food. You have to earn your weight loss, and it doesn't come easy. It takes hard work, determination, and making sacrifices.
Very true. And Richard, it really is about the self-confidence and the self-esteem.
It is.
You know, having been a binge eater myself, and we talked about this earlier before the show, I can empathize with that as well. And I know that even after you lose weight, you can look in the mirror and still see fat. And I hear this all the time. It happened to me for quite a while. Is it something that you think ever goes away?
It takes time to really look in the mirror and not just point out the things you don't like. It has to turn around so that you look in the mirror and you look at things that you do like.
Exactly.
And that will motivate you to keep going. You know, my emphasis is more the inner peace that I have by losing weight and exercising, because that inner peace looks so much better than anything you'll see in the mirror.
And you learn to accept yourself and love yourself.
You're right.
Richard, thank you so much for being on my show.
Doctor, thank you so much. I wish
really
you and your
appreciate it.
family and your listeners and all the people that work with you a very healthy and happy 2012.
Thank you, sir.
The Dr. A Show.
Today we are speaking with #1 New York Times national best-selling author and Emmy Award-winning host, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Dr. Oz, a lot of people don't know that waist circumference really is a predictor of heart disease. Really, as little as 1 centimeter increase is associated with a 2% increase in cardiovascular disease in the future.
The formula that I usually give to people is you want your waist size measured at your belly button to be less than half your height. Once you get above that number, there's a dramatic increase in the chronic illnesses that result.
That leads to a question that I wanted to ask you as well, because I've heard you say we need to fight the war on cancer at the scale. Can you explain that a little more?
You want to fight the war on cancer on scale, to me, is all about the extra fat that you put on inhibits your immune system, so you cannot capture the cancer cells as quickly.
Right.
And it makes it more difficult to treat you if you get cancer.
Yeah, and there's also a lot more evidence accumulating now that a lot of cancers are related to obesity. You describe the 4 pillars of longevity, and these are simple steps that you can follow if you want to live to be 100. Could you tell us about those 4 pillars?
If you look at people who live to age 100, the first thing is daily vigorous physical activity. That's pillar number 1.
Nice.
Number 2 is eat real food, because those foods have nutrients that keep you healthy. You need to have purpose. If you don't have a reason for your heart to keep beating, you won't. And the final thing is get screened. Why die of something that's a knowable risk? But let me thank you very much and congratulate you for both overcoming your own issues, but also being a healer for others.
Thank you so very much.
Take care.
The Dr. A Show.
Our guest today, Lisa Nichols, overcame many serious obstacles in her life to become the author of several New York Times bestsellers, including Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, and her newest book, No Matter What. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Dr. A Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. A. I'm excited to be here with you.
Tell us some of the highlights of this extraordinary journey that you are still on.
You know, I transformed my life from a life that really had a lot to do with lack and scarcity, not enough. I candidly and transparently share my breakdowns with you so that you can understand and see my breakout, so that you can also appreciate my breakthrough.
And that is absolutely the best way to do it, by leading your own example. You say that you were a people pleaser and you wanted everyone to like you at any cost. Did you like yourself?
No, initially I tried to please everyone else so that their love for me, their appreciation for me somehow could rub off.
Right.
And I could love and appreciate and value myself to that same degree.
I was there too, obviously, with my history of binge eating, and I know for a fact how important that is for people who are struggling with their weight and dealing with these issues to learn to love themselves, and that's why I wanted to bring that out. Lisa, thank you again for being on the Dr. A Show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for what you do in the world.
The Dr. A Show.
I am delighted to have Dr. Andrew Weil. Dr. Weil, you say that happiness arises spontaneously from sources within us, and seeking it outside of ourselves is counterproductive. I think that's a very important statement that I want our listeners to understand. Could you please explain this?
Yes, I think many people imagine that happiness will come if they get something they don't now have, a new car, a better job, a new lover. I don't think that's a good place to pin your hopes for good moods. I think it's much better to strive for contentment, which is an inner source of things being all right and being fulfilled, relatively independent of your external circumstances.
Do you think that one of the keys to finding happiness is to learn to accept and love yourself? How do we go about doing this?
At any moment, it's always a choice as to whether we like ourselves or don't like ourselves. And we can observe people who are optimistic and positive, find out how they use their minds, and then teach other people to do that.
You also talk about spirituality and emotional well-being being integrated. And you mentioned the importance of biophilia, which means love of life and living systems as an innate human need.
One of the things that I discovered is that in the few hunter-gatherer societies that are left on the planet today, you can't find cases of depression. They're eating real food, they're getting plenty of physical activity. I think two very important factors are they're connected with nature, and also those people enjoy very strong tribal and family connections.
Dr. Weil, I want to thank you so much for being on the Dr. A Show.
Pleasure to talk to you.
The Dr. A Show.
I'm very pleased to have with us Marcy Shimoff, co-author of the #1 New York Times bestselling series, Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul. Hi, Marcy. Welcome to the Dr. A Show.
Thank you. I'm really delighted to get to be here with you today.
What is happiness?
Traditionally, people think of happiness as circumstantial. I talk about happiness in a much different way. I call it being happy for no reason. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is that you have an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on your circumstances. This relates so dramatically to your area of expertise, Dr. A, which is the weight loss and how being happier can relate to weight loss.
And that makes all the difference in the world. How about up north where there are many months with very little sunlight and depression is common? What can someone do to keep happy?
It is true that we are affected by the amount of light that we get. The syndrome is called SAD. It stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder. There are a few things that we can do. We can make sure that we have enough vitamin D. Our needs for vitamin D go up in the winter when we have less exposure to the sun.
Right, and if you look at the word SAD, the Seasonal Affective Disorder, it really is a mnemonic, sunlight and vitamin D, S-A-D.
Oh, I love it.
And if you do that, you remember what you need to do to make you feel better.
Wow, thank you for that. I learned something on every interview.
Marcy, thank you so very much for being on the Dr. A Show.
Oh, I had a great time with you, and I really want to tell everybody that I wish you all a year that's full of love and happiness.
That is our show for today. And remember one thing, you cannot change the way you eat until you know what's eating you. This is Dr. A wishing you a healthy and happy week.